appreciate you guys. I really do. At a time when I'm, you know, being reminded more and more of what my taxes are looking like, I really appreciate it. Because as I was saying earlier, we pay double because we're self-employed technically. So whatever you think you should pay for your income, imagine if the government was like, okay, but a company doesn't pay you, you just take in your money, so pay us again. That's what we do. So that sucks. Self-employed automatically the next tax bracket up. What does that mean? No, it's not bracket up. Also, there's no such thing as you don't move up and down brackets. Guys, don't make me do this. Don't make me do it. I'm doing it. You showed a fundamental misunderstanding. This is your money, okay? Let's say there's some little dots going through it, okay? Okay, this is 25K. I'm gonna use arbitrary numbers instead of the ones that are actually on your tax forms to make it easy. This is 25K. This is also 25K. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so gorgeous. And this is 25K. Wow, look at that. Total 100K. Let's say you made 100K this year. Things are looking great. Okay, here's how they tax you in the US. They give a rate for each of these. Everything in this first 25, every dollar you make from 0 up to 25K, they're gonna tax at a rate of, let's say, 10%. Let's say. Obviously, these are not the real numbers, but this is how they do it. Then what they do is they take the next 25K up that you make, and they're like, this one, you know, these people are making a little more. Let's tax this chunk at 15%. Right? Now, it's not even like this, but I'm just writing numbers so you understand. They do this one at 20. Let's say we do this one at 25%. Let's say those are the rates, okay? What this means is this here. Can you read yellow on this? Oh, you can. Very well. From everything from $1 to 25K is taxed at a rate at 10%. So let's say you made 100K. Right here, what's 25K times 10%, guys? What's 10% of 25K? What is it? 25,000 times 0.1. Oh, this means that you're going to give them $2,500 of your first 25K, okay? Then what they do is they say, oh, well, you actually made more than that. So the next chunk of money, everything from $25,001 through 50K, that next 25 essentially, right? They're going to tax that at 15%. So that's 25K. What's 25K times 15%? Out of this chunk of 25K, you owe them $37.50. Wow, look at that. Okay? Then the next. This chunk is the next 25K you've made. Again, you made a total of 100. So they say, okay, give us everything from 50,001 approximately all the way through 75K, right? Because that's your next 25. And let's tax that at 20%. This times 0.2 is what? 10,000. So you notice each of these chunks is the same amount, but they tax them differently. So if you were a low income person, you're only paying this percent of your income. But the more you make, the more they take the upper amounts of it and tax it more. So it's just your quote unquote excess that gets taxed higher. Know what I mean? On paper, not always in practice, on paper, it's a pretty fair system. Obviously, people do weird to get around that, but we're not getting into that. So you owe 10K of this. And then of your final 25K, which is about 75K and 1 through your 100. So this is your final 25K. They're like, let's tax this at this rate, right? So we got 25,000 times 0.25. Why did I write 10K before this? No one corrected me, you fools. Or maybe one of you did and I didn't read it. But if you did, congratulations. The next one, we do 0.25, and this is 62.50. So then what you do is you add those up, right? So we do 2,500 plus 37.50 plus 5,000 plus 62.50. All of these together are 17,500. That's how much out of the 100K you pay. This is generally, really generally how they do the brackets. So if you get paid higher, there are people who advise people. They're like, don't take higher pay. It'll put you in a higher bracket. Don't ever listen to that advice. They don't understand that it works like this. There have always been a ton of people that don't understand that it works like this. They have a hard time adjusting to understanding this, but there's never, ever refuse more pay because it'll quote unquote put you in a higher bracket, okay? You just take it. It just means that, let's say you made 75 last year, now you make 76. Okay, well that additional 1K raise you got, that 1K will get taxed a little more. You're still making more, okay? That is generally kind of sort of how it works. Okay, anyway, sorry. When I see someone say the incorrect thing in chat, I'm like, oh no, this person might actually be someone who would agree to less pay because someone put them in the understanding that it was like not like that, you know? And that's dangerous, and I don't want people to think that way. It's not good for them. Now, that's an imperfect explanation of it, but it's close enough for you to get how it works. There are all sorts of other fun things you can do with your taxes to, you know, avoid them, and which is scummy. And that's why a lot of rich people, you know, will end up really not paying that much. There's all this complicated stuff that you can do around it, and every little loophole has been made complex by some rich person who was like, yeah, I want to pay less. TLDR. For example, you could buy a house. You could have a certain amount of land on it, and in your municipality, maybe if you own 2 goats, you're considered a farm. And then when you go to pay your property tax, you can be like, oh, I'm a farm, so actually my tax rate's like super low, haha, wink. And meanwhile, you're like some rich guy who pays someone else to take care of his goats, but whatever, you know. There's a ton of usually revolving around assets that people do like that to simply not pay. You know, do what you gotta do. Don't say no to money. If a thing exists and it gets you more money, just do it. I'll see a lot of folks, the common folks that don't make much, you know, they're like middle class and lower. They'll be like, oh, I don't want to do this thing because that's scummy. To which I say, hey, anything you could do in your income bracket is probably not that bad in comparison. So do what you gotta do, man. Like, it's okay. People are like, I think it's just because they value things more, you know, their worldview is different. So they're like, oh man, I don't want to accept that $10 from that guy. Meanwhile, someone with a lot of money is like, I saved $5 billion by, you know, having, you know, these 2 people work in my basement making this thing. Just, you're probably okay. You're probably all right, you know?